Hey LuHi, welcome back to our online learning Lenten Bible study on the book of Isaiah. This is day 3, and we are going to read through Isaiah chapter 6, verses 1 through 13. So I put a link in my original email from Monday. If you want to click on that, it'll take you to Bible Gateway. You can follow along, but I will read those verses to you as well. So Isaiah chapter 6, starting in the first verse. In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord sitting upon a throne, high and lifted up, and the train of his robe filled the temple. Above him stood the seraphim. Each had 6 wings. With 2 he covered his face, and with 2 he covered his feet, and with 2 he flew. And one called to another and said, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is full of his glory. And the foundations of the thresholds shook at the voice of him who called, and the house was filled with smoke. And I said, Woe is me, for I am lost. For I am a man of unclean lips, and I dwell in the midst of a people of unclean lips. For my eyes have seen the King, the Lord of hosts. Then one of the seraphim flew to me, having in his hand a burning coal, that he had taken with tongs from the altar. And he touched my mouth and said, Behold, this has touched your lips. Your guilt is taken away, and your sin atoned for. And I heard the voice of the Lord saying, Whom shall I send, and who will go for us? Then I said, Here am I, send me. And he said, Go and say to this people, Keep on hearing, but do not understand. Keep on seeing, but do not perceive. Make the heart of this people dull, and their ears heavy, and blind their eyes, lest they see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and understand with their hearts, and turn and be healed. Then I said, How long, O Lord? And he said, Until cities lie waste without inhabitant, and houses without people, and the land is a desolate waste. And the Lord removes people far away, and the forsaken places are many in the midst of the land. And though 1/10 remain in it, it will be burned again, like a terebinth or an oak, whose stump remains, then is felled. The holy seed is its stump. So if you haven't, before clicking on this video, please take a second to just reflect on what this verse is talking about, what this verse means for you. And we'll come back in a second. And now that you've had an opportunity to do that, here's just a few of my musings on this verse. This is just an incredibly rich, theological, Christological, amazing couple of verses that we could probably do an entire Bible study on just these. I promise I won't go too crazy long. This is Isaiah's call, and the one thing to remember when reading Isaiah, and any of the prophets for that matter, but Isaiah in particular, he's not written chronologically. So we can't expect like the events from verse 1, and then verse 2, and then verse 3, or chapter 1, chapter 2, and chapter 3, and so on to happen like sequentially. He's a prophet, and he's speaking these prophecies that kind of jump around a little bit, and Isaiah is more organized topically rather than chronologically, which kind of makes it handy for a Bible study because we can pick out a couple chapters in a row, and they're going to kind of revolve around one theme, this theme of Israel's judgment and God's plan for salvation for Israel, which is kind of what we've been focusing on for the past couple days. So Isaiah, when he's called to be a prophet, this is his call to be a prophet, and he gets this amazing vision. He receives this vision of God sitting on a throne, seraphim, these angels surrounding him, flying around, crying out to one another, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is full of his glory. And Isaiah, in seeing this glorious vision, says, Woe is me, which sounds a little crazy, but actually Isaiah really gets it, right? Isaiah understands that God's presence is both judgment and salvation, and when he sees God, he understands that and says, woe is me. Woe is a funeral word. He fears death when he sees God. He says, I am lost. I am a man of unclean lips, and I dwell in the midst of a people of unclean lips. For my eyes have seen the King, the Lord of hosts. He thinks he is about to die because he is in God's presence. And what happens then? One of the angels, one of the seraphim, takes a burning coal from the altar and a pair of tongs and touches it to his lips and says, behold, this has touched your lips, your guilt is taken away, and your sin atoned for. Not because of anything Isaiah did. He confessed. He knows he is an unclean, imperfect, sinful human being. And yet he has been justified. He has been made clean. He has been declared righteous because of the work of God, because of this thing, this coal that the angel has pressed to his lips. And for me, that always reminds me of the sacrament of Holy Communion, right? That true body and blood of Christ, that when it touches our lips, gives us forgiveness, salvation, and new life. But that's what's happening with Isaiah. This coal touches his lips, and he is justified. He is declared righteous. His sin has been atoned for. And then God cries out, whom shall I send? And Isaiah, again, gets it exactly right here. He says, here am I, send me. Because he knows now that God has forgiven him, now that God has atoned for his sins, made him righteous, that there is nothing in his way. There's nothing standing between him and being the kind of person that God commands him to be. Right? He says, here I am, send me. Right? I have been forgiven, you have forgiven me, so now I will go on your behalf. This is the exact way that every prophet should respond to their call from God. And if you want an example of the exact wrong way for a prophet to respond to God's call, take a look at Jonah, right? Who God tells him, hey, Jonah, you're going to go to Nineveh. And Jonah says nothing. He doesn't say anything at all. He tries to run from God, and that's how he ends up in the whale, right? And the first thing he says to God once he's in the whale is how angry he is with God. That's the exact wrong way to do this. But Isaiah gets it perfectly right. He says, here am I, send me. I have been justified by you. I have been made righteous. I have been forgiven. And now I can go and share that with the rest of the world. And that's exactly how God treats us as well. Right? God gives us his forgiveness first and foremost. He atones for our sins. And that once that happens, that's a gift. Once God gives that to us, then we can say, well, God, I've been forgiven. Here am I. Send me. Now I can go and share that light and that love with other people. And what exactly is the light and the love? What exactly is the message that God tells Isaiah to send? Well, it doesn't exactly sound like a lot of light and love. He says, tell this to the people. Keep on hearing, but do not understand. Keep on seeing, but do not perceive. Right? Keep on hearing, but do not understand. Keep on seeing, but do not perceive. He calls these people deaf and blind. And the reason for that is because they've been chasing after idols, right? Idols, these replacements for God. The people of Israel have been trying to replace God with something other than God, right? The God who has entered into a covenant with them, who loves them, who shared with them his word and his name. He is personal to them. He speaks to them. And they go and chase after these other idols that are by nature incapable of loving them back, incapable of speaking to them or seeing them the way God speaks to us and sees us. And so there's this idea, right, when God first made the people of Israel his kingdom of priests and holy nation, right? He did that so that Israel could become like him, right? They would receive God's love, mercy, light, forgiveness, so they could then herald that to the world, right? That image of a lighthouse that I used the other day. Israel is supposed to be God's lighthouse, sharing his light with the entire world as his people. And instead, they've chased after these idols, right? Instead of becoming like God by worshiping God and loving God, they've chased after these mute idols, these deaf idols. And that is why they are becoming mute and deaf people. And that's how God describes them, right? You are what you worship. You are what you worship. And because their worship has not been directed towards the true God, the God of Israel, well, they have been on the wrong path, and they are becoming what they worship. They are becoming blind and deaf. So this sounds again like a lot of law, like a lot of condemnation coming from God. But right at the very end, when God is describing how the tree that is Israel is going to be chopped down and burned, and only a stump remain when it's felled, he then says the holy seed is its stump. God gives just a little taste of again his plan to save and redeem his people. That seed which is going to sprout from the stump of Israel which has been cut down. And what is that seed? Who is that seed? What is the plan? Well, we having the benefit of hindsight, may know a little bit more about what that plan is, but Isaiah still doesn't know, and God's people at this time still don't know. But we will delve more into that later. So thank you for watching. Have a great day, LuHi, and we'll talk soon. Bye.